The warrior will receive so many different changes and new abilities in Mist of Pandaria Classic, and for those of you who are enjoying this class, then you should definitely be looking forward to continuing your journey as a warrior. In Cataclysm, you got yourself a debuff whenever you activated Recklessness. This increased your damage taken by 10%, but the debuff has been removed in Mist of Pandaria. Your inner rage and Rend has also been removed, but in fact Rend has been turned into another spell called Deep Wounds. You can apply Deep Wounds to the target by either using Bloodthirst, Mortal Strike or Devastate, and later on you will also learn yourself a new passive called Blood and Thunder. This causes your Thunderclap to apply Deep Wounds to all nearby targets. One thing to be aware of is that this will be protection and arm specialization only. Swapping between your different stances has been a thing ever since the beginning of Classic, but this is no longer the case. You can use all your different abilities no matter what stance you're in, and this is a big improvement, especially if you would for example like to quickly spell reflect, disarm or do something else that usually requires you to stance. Slam has seen a change, as it's only available to arms warriors. You can activate your sweeping strike and continue to use your slam, and that way also deal a bit of damage to all nearby enemies within 2 yards of the current target. Your shell slam and revenge has been changed as a protection warrior. Instead of costing rage, it will now generate rage, and this you can use for many other abilities. There may be even the new ability Shield Barrier. What this does is to consume your rage and turn this into absorb damage. You can use this ability the moment you have 20 rage, but you can use up to 60 to grant an even bigger absorb effect. Good news is that you will no longer need to acquire yourself a ranged weapon, as this has been removed as a warrior. Instead, what you will do is just to use your throw ability. As a fairy warrior, your raging blow has been changed. It no longer has a cooldown, but the bad thing is that you will also need to be enraged before you can use this skill. Earlier in the video I mentioned Bloodthirst applying Deep Wounds, but what has also been changed is that now it generates rage instead of costing rage. Berserker Rage has been improved and increases the damage you do by 10% for 6 seconds. This you can then combine together with for example a cooldown like Recklessness or your trinkets. In Cataclysm, Battle Shout increased everyone's agility and strength. Instead it will now grant a total of 10% attack power. The sad news is that this has definitely been nerfed, but the good thing is that it still generates 20 rage. In my opinion, warriors become so much more fun to play in Mist of Pandaria. One of the new abilities are the war banners. There's a total of 3 of these, but you can only have 1 active at a time. The first one will try to guide all nearby targets toward the warrior. The next one will attempt to taunt all nearby targets, preventing them from hitting the warrior. And the last one will be a benefit for party and raid members, including the warrior. What this banner does is to increase everyone's critical damage by 20% for 10 seconds, as long as they're within 40 yards of the banner. We will also see some new glyphs, for example Blazing Trail. What it does is to add a flamey effect every time you use your charge ability. Pretty cool in my opinion. Another glyph that will add a new visual is going to be Thunderstrike. Whenever you use your Thunderclap, it will no longer have the traditional effect. Instead, it will simply spawn all these lightnings. You might also have tried this before. You use your intimidating shout, and the creatures run all over the place, maybe even pulling new enemies. This is no longer the case with this glyph, as all of them will be feared in place. By the time you reach max level, you can choose between 3 different talents. Stormbolt, where you throw your weapon at a target, it will deal a bit of damage and also stun the target for up to 4 seconds. At first this might seem like a PvP talent, but if your target is immune to stun effects, for example a raid encounter, well then you can use this ability to deal a high amount of damage. The second option is Bloodbath. For the next 12 seconds, all your melee special attacks will deal an additional 30% damage as a bleed effect over 6 seconds. You can combine this together with, for example, using Recklessness, trinkets, but also Dragon Roar, an ability I'll talk about later. Just remember to try to cleave as much as possible to spread Bloodbath to all the different nearby targets. The last option is Avatar. For the next 24 seconds, all your damage dealt will be increased by 20%. It will also break you free from all root and snare effects the moment you activate this. And just like Bloodbath, it's important you activate other important cooldowns when you use an ability like this, simply to do the highest damage possible. At level 15 you can choose Warbringer. Whenever you use your charge, you will also root that enemy for 4 seconds and reduce their movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds. Double time allow you to use charge 2 times in a row, but there's also going to be a recharge time. If you wish to charge more often, for example in longer fights, well then Juggernaut is your option. I usually go for this myself, or in some cases double time. At level 30 we can pick Enrage Regeneration, that instantly heals you for 10% and an additional 10% over 5 seconds. By using this as Enraged, you will also increase the effect by twice as much. And it's a 1 minute cooldown, so you can use it quite often in raid encounters. I like to use Second Wind when I'm PvPing, but during many raid encounters you won't really benefit from this, as it also requires you to drop below 35% health, which isn't really good. Besides during raid encounters where many raid members will be dropping low constantly. Impending Victory replaces your Victory Rush, but this can also be used even without killing a target. It does a bit of damage and heals you for 20% of your maximum health, and it's a 30 seconds cooldown only. Pretty useful, but in most cases I just prefer Enrage Regeneration. At level 45 we can pick Disrupting Shout, an AoE interrupt that will interrupt all people within 10 yards of the warrior and prevent them from casting anything in that school for 4 seconds. It shares a 15 seconds cooldown with your pommel, so if you're just single target interrupting, you should simply just be using your pommel. You probably already know about Piercing Howl from previous expansions. What it does is to snare all enemies within 15 yards of the warrior, and their movement speed will be reduced by 50% for 15 seconds. The last option is Staggering Shout. If you have for example used hamstering on many enemies and they're within 20 yards of you, well then you can use this to root all of them in place for 5 seconds. At level 60 we can choose between Bladestorm and Shockwave, which used to be either arms or protection only, but now you can simply go with these two talents no matter your specialization. Or the new ability Dragon Roar. This is an AoE ability that deals a high amount of damage. It will also knock down enemies for 0.5 seconds. But the most important thing is that this will always critical hit and also ignore the target's armor. Because it's AoE, you can then use it together with Bloodbath to deal an insane amount of damage in next to no time. You can cast Vigilance on any party or raid member to have their damage taken reduced by 30% for 12 seconds. It's a 2 minutes cooldown, and when you activate this buff, you will simply also have no cooldown on your taunt. Safeguard will replace your intervene, but also make it even better. Besides reducing the damage taken by 20% for 6 seconds, then it will also remove any movement impairing effects. Pretty useful, as it only has a 30 seconds cooldown. But to be honest, there's one last talent to mainly be looking forward to: Mass Spell Reflect. Besides reflecting the next spell casted on you, then it will also be working on all party and raid members within 20 yards of the warrior for the next 5 seconds, but only one spell of course. So like I said in the beginning, if you like to play warrior, well then don't worry about this upcoming expansion, because it's definitely going to be a lot of fun to be playing, and I'm looking forward to be playing a warrior myself. What I'm also looking forward to is bringing you even more class-changing videos and many other guides for Mist of Pandaria anytime soon. So if you're interested in this expansion, well then make sure to subscribe to the channel to get notified the next time I post a video. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.